Well, a very good morning to everyone in UK and Europe, and a very good afternoon to everyone in Vietnam and in Asia. A warm welcome to Vietnam Holdings webinar. Well, I'm Craig Martin. I'm chairman of Dynam Capital, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joined today by my colleague Tan, but also by a very special guest, An Huan from FPT. FPT is one of our top positions, and we'll be talking about that later. Firstly, just a little bit on Vietnam Holding, if people aren't familiar with the company, with the fund. We're listed on the main board of the London Stock Exchange, closed-end fund. We're now a member of the FTSE All-Share. We're organized, we have an independent board who conduct share buybacks and have put in place with shareholders approval an annual redemption facility, which means that the discount between the share price and the net asset value is well managed by the board. Our team are all substantially in Ho Chi Minh City, on the ground, actively hunting great investment opportunities, and have demonstrated strong outperformance against the benchmark index over 1, 3, 5, 10, and even 15 years, averaging about 600 basis points of alpha. So outperforming the market, but also outperforming our peers in absolute net asset value terms. We're an award-winning fund. We were the Citywire #1 emerging market single country fund announced in November 2023. And our team, just a couple of months ago, were awarded the Citywire AAA Star Award. I believe we're the only fund in Asia Pacific outside of Japan to have been awarded that. So we're very pleased with those recognitions for our efforts, which is just doing simple things well. Actively managing a high conviction portfolio of listed companies in Vietnam. Concentrated portfolio, 24 holdings. We don't use any gearing in the portfolio, and our largest position is close to 15%. In fact, that's FPT, which we'll be hearing about a little bit later on. Thematically, we're looking to position the portfolio around the core themes on a top-down basis, but really we're looking at good companies on a bottom-up basis, businesses that can compound their earnings. We're an active investor, meaning that we don't just pick what's in the index, and we're very nimble around the size of opportunities, from the small, medium to the large cap opportunities. Next slide. So this morning, I'll talk a little bit about Vietnam's position, briefly around the macro and the equity market. And then I'll hand over to An Huan from FPT, who will give you a little bit of background on FPT. And then Huan and myself will have a little fireside chat around some of the key interesting themes in the tech sector in Vietnam. And then my colleague Tam will talk a little bit about the portfolio, and then we'll have a time for more open Q&A at the end. And we should be finished with about 35 to 40 minutes and giving people the rest of their day back to them. Next slide. Hopefully people are aware of how attractive Vietnam is from a macro position. It's a large population, 100 million people, young, digitally savvy, also highly literate. And education is well prized in Vietnam. Vietnam is #2 only to Singapore in the PISA rankings of education and in the Human Capital Index. So Vietnam's strong position globally has cemented it as a made in Vietnam, a manufacturing center over many years. And the export growth has been particularly strong over a number of years. And Vietnam has a broad partnership, both of countries it trades with. It's got 16 free trade agreements in place, and it's an active player in global trade, importing and exporting all the major countries, but also all the different categories of goods, from high-tech to mobile phones, and then through to more traditional products, and also services. And FPT, that you'll hear from later, is a big service exporter as well as a domestic digital champion. Next slide. Over a number of years, Vietnam's attracted record levels of foreign direct investment, and this year's no exception, with close to $13 billion in the first 7 months of this year. That's going largely into the manufacturing for export opportunity. And it's encouraging to see public investment rise this year, around about 2 to 3% on last year. And this is largely domestic money going into infrastructure, which has a multiplier effect for the future. So encouraging to see growth in that domestic public infrastructure investment. Next slide. So Vietnam, over the last 30 years, has seen its GDP dramatically rise at 6.5% on average over those 30 years, one of the highest levels of growth anywhere in the world. And then on a GDP per capita basis, over the last 30 years, the GDP per capita has gone up close to 7 times. And Vietnam is now at this kind of middle income consumer level with an ambition by the government to be at the higher income level within a few years, by 2045. So where it is today is on a fast inflection point, a high growth in per capita GDP. Next slide. In 2000, there were about 40% of the Vietnamese population classed as consumers. That's people spending more than $11 a day buying stuff. Now in 2024, that level's probably 70%. So a rapid penetration of consumer brands and increasingly through digital means. Vietnam used to have more Facebook accounts and bank accounts. That's now changed. There's equally high levels of digital bank accounts and stock trading accounts and omni-channel retail. And of course, that's fueled by good, fast internet and digitally enabled infrastructure that people like FPT have put into place in the country. So there'll be more consumers coming in the next 4 or 5 years, and that's going to bode well for us as a stock picker. There'll be opportunities to find compounding businesses, particularly as Vietnam grows its modern trade. Next slide. And urbanization is the fastest growth rate in Asia, starting from a relatively low base, but 40% almost urbanization this year. The government's ambition by 2030 is for that to be at 50% urbanization. So again, it's on this fast growth track, which is reminiscent in many ways of the fast growth that China saw over the last 20 years. Next slide. And next slide. So we choose to participate in the growth through the equity market. If you look back over the last 24 years, the equity markets are only 24 years old in Vietnam. You've gone from a couple of companies way back then, now to 1,600 public companies. Daily liquidity on the Vietnam stock market is close to $1 billion a day. That's 5 times where it was in 2018 or 2019. And that's really driven by domestic retail investors. Vietnam's now got 8 million domestic investors. There's about 1 million added each year. And that's 4 times level also of 2018, 2019. So digitally enabled people investing in the stock market, driving liquidity. And yet the market's still attractive. It's currently trading round about 1 standard deviation below its median level on a P of about 15 times, on a forward probably 10 times, and yet with great growth. EPS growth of 15 to 20% in this year and in 2025. So good opportunities for growth at a reasonable valuation. Next slide. On a relative basis compared to its Asian peers, it's also cheap, but not only that, it's profitable. There's a very high return on equity in many of the leading Vietnamese companies and the market as a whole. So there's opportunities for compound growth by allocating to Vietnamese equities. Next slide. It's still a frontier market, though, about 25% of the index, but I was at a conference with the Ministry of Finance of Vietnam earlier this week, and everyone's committed to have Vietnam eventually become in that emerging market category to get an upgrade, and they're very hardworking in trying to put the infrastructure and address the issues that will enable that upgrade to happen in due course. It could be as early as 2025, if not by 2026 is when people hope to have an upgrade to the market. And the World Bank estimate that bringing $20 to $30 billion over 2 to 3 years in indirect investment. Next slide. So the main part of today is to really introduce to you one of our top holdings and a company we're delighted to have in our portfolio, FPT. And we're joined by An Huang, who will give us an insight to FPT, and then I'll run a moderated question and answer session with An Huang in a few minutes. So An Huang, over to you. Thank you very much. Next slide.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning from Vietnam. So I'm the CFO and the COO of FPT Software. The company was in charge for global market. So I would thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce you about FPT overall. So next slide. So the company was founded in 1988. So basically 36 years ago. And today, FPT is a global technology and IT service provider headquartered in Hanoi, Vietnam. So after 36 years of operation, we now have more than 78,000 employees globally in over 30 countries. And in 2023, we recorded $2.2 billion for the core business and around 4.2 billion for including the affiliated business, retail and trading. So recently, our market capitalization hit $7 billion, ranking in top 4 of Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange. And including the affiliated company, we are now accounted to 78,000 employees and 48,000 for the core business. Next slides. So our core business are the 3 pillars: technology, telecommunication, and education. So FPT has been always pioneer in ICT scene, and we are the market leader in 3 core business sector: technology, telecom, and education. So, and we actively contributed to the development of Vietnam as a global digital hub, and became the first Vietnam company to hit the first $1 billion from global market, global IT market. This achievement driven by FPT subsidiary named by FPT Software. And in the technology sector, we have a subdivision, like the largest one is FPT Software, and then other division as FPT Cloud, FPT Automotive is focusing on automotive industry, semiconductor, new founded, and FPT Digitals, smaller one. And for telecommunications, we are #1 cloud and data service provider. And we running the #1 Vietnam e-newspaper, vnexpert.net, with more than 40 million frequent readers. And we rank #3 and telecommunication provider, ICT internet network, broadband in Vietnam. And for the education, with more than 170,000 learners at all levels, from elementary school up to vocational training and university level. I'm pretty sure that we are #1 in terms of number and #4 as the most prestigious university in Vietnam. Next, please. Next slide. And for the global presence, we are now in more than 30 countries and territories. We are operating in 85 offices, and our delivery model based on on-site, where we have our presence with close to customers, nearshore development center, and offshore, and it's represent our global delivery models to providing the cost-efficient and timely delivery for our customers. And this year, we're gonna celebrating 25th anniversary of FPT Software, and today we has over than 30,000 employees, and that's enable our employees to diversify their working experience to develop their global career, managing multiple language and collaboration across the different geographies. Next slide, please. And today, we are partnering, position ourselves as a technology enabler for complex business challenge and opportunity. And we have become trusted partner for more than 1,000 global clients in industries, including automotive, BFSI, healthcare, energy, and aviation. We're providing them with comprehensive services and solution in such areas like advanced analytic, AI, digital platform, cloud, hyperautomation, IoT, and delivered by our experts in different domain and for decades. And we keeping ourselves as a learning organization, keeping updated with latest technology. And our latest focus is based on AI and generative AI. And you can see in the list of our strategic partner, there's a name site like Miller AI Institute Technology for leading by Dr. Joshua Benjour, and we're collaborating with Landing AI platform, and it's of course with a major player in industry like Microsoft, Adobe, SAP, AI Tomatic, and today with more than 1,000 AI engineers, PhD level, different levels, and with number of big engineers with technology from Microsoft, AWS, we are very confident that we can deliver the high quality service from Vietnam to the world. Thank you. And next slides. Yeah, this is a picture of our campus in Hanoi. So basically,
it looks beautiful
at the moment in that corner. Thank you, Craig.
And Hoang, thank you so much for that. I think certainly, you emphasized the education sector, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And it's interesting, isn't it, that I think Vietnam had 40% of the graduates were in that space. So that's great human capital. And Hoang, you mentioned just in one of your slides, two great names, Benjo and also Landing AI. I think it's Andrew Ng. Two of the great the founders of the modern kind of deep learning AI movement. So let's talk a little bit about AI. FPT obviously has been a pioneer. We call you a digital champion. But how are you going to leverage artificial intelligence for your existing service offerings, but perhaps for new products? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you, Craig. So actually, we are positioning ourselves to becoming an AI-defined corporation, support Vietnam aspiration of becoming an AI nation. And in the last 10 years, we spent our effort in AI research and development. And today we have more than 1,000 AI engineers and experts. And also AI will be embedded in our services and solution, and playing a crucial role in enabling new levels of performance for clients. For example, we have a product like Confident AI-powered customized solution for underwriting and claim processing in insurance, applying intelligent automation to manual tasks. And we have also product like named IvyChat, a multi-agent LLM platform to automate business processes, enhance quality, and tasks such as lead management, data insights generation to boost productivity and sharpen the decision-making process. In the future, we will continue to partnering with leading global entities to broaden AI ecosystem and foster the education toward AI for our employees and future generation. So as mentioned, we already partnering with NVIDIA, Miller, Landing AI, AI Tomatic, and AI Alliance launched by IBM and Meta. Recently, we joined AI Tomatic and AI and Tokyo Electron in development of the SemiMeco, the world's first open source AI large language model for semiconductor industry. And for the education for our employee and all the next generation, so we are executing mandatory AI training for all of FPT employees, including myself, and partnering the Mila Institute and AI residency program. It's 60 residencies selected and alumni trained by world-class mentor, and many of whom receiving offers from top university like Harvard, Stanford, and US. That's what we do towards AI.
Fantastic. Look, maybe I should join some of those courses. My AI started
You're more
30
than welcome.
years ago.
Yeah, come to Vietnam to see what we are doing here.
Look, another industry
you mentioned about Andrew Ng, like we invest into landing AI, and Andrew, of course, the Time Magazine top 100 most influential people, and actually we are working with landing AI to create a comprehensive AI curriculum for students from grade from elementary school to high school, because we are running here in FPT school organizations, and we open this for the society as well.
That's great. You're building that human capacity. Now,
yeah,
and another sector that's undergoing a lot of disruption globally, and I know you have a role to play in that, is in the global automotive industry. Obviously, with a big move to EVs, but also in the future potentially driverless cars. What are you doing at FPT in the automotive sector, and how are you working to keep ahead of those developments?
Yeah, it's very interesting situation right now with the automotive industry, but the global transition to autonomous and connected vehicle in last, I would say, 10 years lead to growing to automotive software market. Software market. So according to some research, global automotive market, software market, projected to reach 117 billion by 2032, which means compound average growth rate about 16.7% from 23. And for Asia Pacific, automotive market, software market is expected to grow from 12.7 billion to 45 billion by 32. Means that with a similar growth with the global market. And in response to that, FPT also focus on software development, which form the core of automobiles in the SDV area. We believe so, software-defined vehicle. And in mentioning in our presentation, last year we established FPT Automotive with the core team of 4,000 engineers and experts, and the team has been working with more than 150 car manufacturer and automotive parts supplier in the last 12 years, and we offer comprehensive automotive solution, and from automotive software, digital services, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, to help our customers maintain competitive edge, ensure the highest standard and of safety and for the smart mobility society. And at FPT Software was among 26 companies recognized by Access Automotive Engineering Service Big Matrix assessment by Everest Group. And we are very proud of it, and that's what we reacting to the change right now, because today cars becoming computers, and, driving computers. Even
that's a good analogy.
It's like, traditional car or electric cars.
It's like an iPad on wheels, isn't it? Yes, indeed. And another, you mentioned also in your slides about NVIDIA, obviously a company that everyone's very familiar with in the last 12 months, probably no one had ever heard of it before. And NVIDIA clearly also at the AI cutting edge, but also more broadly in the semiconductor area, the US and global suppliers are changing their supply chain, right? The US Chip Act, and everyone's talking about chips and semiconductor manufacturing globally. How's Vietnam positioned in that, and particularly for FPT? How do you see those kind of global disruptions to supply chain either impacting you or benefiting your company? And also, are there any plans to do more in the semiconductor side in Vietnam?
Yeah, actually, we've been in the industry, software service industry for more than 20 years. And during those years, we are servicing also semiconductors companies. And particularly for Vietnam, Vietnam is becoming a very, I would say, attractive destination for semiconductor companies when they looking for the global expansion. And by end of 24, Vietnam's semiconductor industry forecast to bypass 6 billion value, making one of the important production center for many global semiconductor company. And more than 50 semiconductor companies have been had their presence in Vietnam, such as Intel, Amcor, Marvell, Cadence, Synopsys, so and many more in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh cities. And Deloitte predicted global market will need more than 1 million additional skills workers and by 2030. So Vietnam is here to help, and FPT, we are preparing for that, and also working with closely with the Vietnam government, and we targeting 50,000 semiconductor engineers by 2030. And at FPT, we aim to fully integrate to Vietnam into global semiconductor ecosystem. Also, 2 years ago, we founded FPT Semiconductor, a startup, inter-company startup, to focusing on is the first company in Vietnam to manufacture commercial chips. And FPT Semiconductor already secure orders of 70 million chips will be delivered by end of next year. And
fantastic.
In parallel, FPT aims to develop a high-quality workforce for the industry, and because we've been very close to the industry, and we work with FPT University to create curriculum and launch the semiconductor circuit faculty, providing comprehensive training to undergraduate, college, and postgraduate students to support the plan of the government. I mentioned.
Fantastic. 50. So look, and so that's Vietnam is a key made in Vietnam for solid goods as well as software and technology. But let's turn a little bit, obviously, to Vietnam itself as a domestic market. And obviously, I mentioned the growth in consumerism, and Vietnam's digital economy, its own digital economy, is projected to reach about $45 billion by as early as next year. So what role has FPT got domestically in that exciting growth story?
So I think FPT is definitely one of the key players here in Vietnam to support that, and besides that, we have all confidence to be one of the key players in that field. We have engineers competency, we have educational aims, and beside that, we creating the environment for digital economy. For instance, you need the engineers, you need the people, and you need the ecosystem for that. And at FPT, with retail chain, with trading arms, with educations, with huge number of employees and graduates from FPT education. We believe that we will play a very significant role to promote the digital economy of Vietnam.
Thank you. Well, look, part of the software is the people, and you mentioned, the human capital aspect. The industry as a whole often is faced with challenges globally in sourcing skilled talent. How can FPT attract and retain top talent? And how can you make sure there are no skill gaps so that you can remain competitive?
We've been very successfully to hiring and retaining people. So today I mentioned FPT has more than 70,000 employees alone. At FPT Software 30,000, and we are maintaining a very good attrition rate at about 10%. I would say if you compare to other countries, it's very meaningful number. And besides, we've been we creating opportunity for our employees from Vietnam to experience the global environment, working overseas and combining with hiring locally. Today, for instance, in Japan, we have a workforce about 3,500 people. In Americas, US, Canada, and Latin America, we have more than 1,000 employees. In Europe and Central Europe, we have around also close to 1,000. We have a development center in Czech and Slovakia. We're expanding to Romania. So our initiative is to create a global environment within the company, adapting the culture, and in the company we are fostering the lifelong learning, especially for specific skills. So we partnering with leading education platform like Udemy, Coursera, and we executing mandatory AI training for all employees.
That's right.
Yeah, we partnering with the Mila Institute and to retain the residency program and alumni working and promoting the training for bridge engineers speaking fluently the local language for niche, I would say niche languages like Japan, Korea, even Chinese, and focusing on education for the next generation. So I mentioned about partnering with Landing AI and undergoing on for comprehensive curriculum for grade elementary to high school level, and we running the global internship program for international ICT student coming to Vietnam to experience the environment here in Vietnam, corporate environment and also social environment here. And inside the company, we creating also positive working environment, green campuses. You can see in the picture, digitizing the employee journey with technology innovation, and for instance, employee experience with internal apps, AI powered chatbot, AI coding assistant. So generative AI should help developers to ease their work and to boost the productivity. And yep, that's besides we creating like a lifestyle support, caring about employee benefits. We even organizing the corporate marriage within FPT.
Well, it's good to see
really
FPT
happy because you spend more time with your colleagues than more than your family and society sometimes.
Well, it's great to see FPT both at the forefront of the digitalization and also a strong player in good ESG, which is very important to Vietnam Holdings. So we thank you very much for that discussion and for your answers there. And Hoang, I think you've explained very well that FPT is at the leading edge, which is why you're such a digital champion. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now we'll move on. My colleague Tam will just give us a little bit of an update on the Vietnam holding portfolio, and then we'll conclude with some Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Yeah, the next slide. Yes, we continue to apply our approved investment approach for growth stock in Vietnam, and we use both the bottom up and top down to react to changes in the of the economy of the market. And we also to continue to integrate our ESG approach to the investment criteria. Yeah, and it has been proved to be will be able to deliver the sustainable long-term growth for the investors. Despite the many ups and downs of the market, we, as Craig already mentioned, we was able to deliver active return and sustainable alpha for investors. Next slide. Yeah, we continue to focus on three investment themes, including the industrialization, domestic consumption, and urbanization. For the industrialization, we believe that and urbanization, we believe that in the next few years, the inflows of FDI and also the commitment by the government to follow to improve the infrastructure will be the strong foundation for the growth of the economy. For the banks, it would be one of the key beneficiaries of the in the early stage of the recovery of the economy. Not to say because Vietnam, the retail banking, the digital banking would be one of the key elements for the growth of the bank in the future. For domestic consumption, we believe that Vietnam is one of the biggest retail market in ASEAN, and it would be a stronger element of the growth of Vietnam in the future. And recently, we already accumulate more exposure more to the retail sectors for the portfolio. Next slide. Yeah, from that macro view, we construct in a disciplined way for a concentrated portfolio with strong conviction in banks, and we are very happy to have FPT in the portfolio for more than 10 years and have a very strong performance. And until now, despite a very strong performance, we still keep FPT in the top one of our portfolio. Yes, FPT and also for the industrial goods, yeah, we continue to overweight the sectors because we think that FDI would continue to benefit Vietnam. Retail, recently we just accumulate more stocks in the retail sectors, and we think that a number of position in our portfolio will deliver strong earning growth for this year and the years to come. For real estate, one of the key sectors in the market, in the Vietnam market, we still optimistic about the sectors, but we keep it at a modest position because we think that it will be benefit later in the later stage of the economy. Yeah, and year to date, we are very happy that the portfolios can strongly outperform the market and have very good return, positive return in year to date. Next slide. Yes, you see the snapshot of the portfolio, and we are very happy to go to the Q&A session for you. Yeah.
Thanks, Tan. Next slide. So the result of that is strong outperformance that we've said at the beginning. Vietnam holding at the narrowest discount to net asset value. These numbers are a little bit dated, but the trend is still the same. The narrowest of the discounts of the three UK listed Vietnam funds, and yet the strongest performance and outperforming also the indices. So we've got a time now in the closing few minutes of the webinar for questions. There's one question that's come through around geopolitics. How's Vietnam faring in this uncertain geopolitical world? Well, I think I'll answer firstly to that, which is that we're still seeing the persistence of the China plus one theme. People are allocating more to Vietnam in terms of their manufacturing. And even with wars going on and instabilities, Vietnam is playing a very careful and strong role as being a friend to all in terms of its openness for trade, but servant to none, and is engaging with the global leaders and positioning and really punching above its weight. But a question actually linked into that, perhaps for Anh Nguyen. I mean, you as a digital player, disruption geopolitically, is that a risk to your business or is it a positive?
I would say until today is very positive. There's some reason of that. Firstly, it's about the war in Ukraine and Russia. And in the past, Ukraine, Russia, Belarus is a big hub for IT talents, and is big, a big hub for nearshore and offshore software development. But today, people need to move to other countries and cannot be delivered, or otherwise they cannot deliver from those countries. And we see the trend that people moving the development center towards India, Vietnam, but India is very much competitive in terms of inflation, in terms of attrition rates, and we are very much benefited out of the trend, and Vietnam becoming, and FPT becoming more and more popular within the industry. And besides, we also seeing the trend of moving the manufacturing from China to Vietnam. And today we, in the last 24 months, we receiving growing orders from local MNC manufacturing in Vietnam to doing the IT job, the software and project, the AI project for manufacturing, for instance, in Vietnam for global companies moving out the manufacturing from China to Vietnam. And
super interesting, yeah.
And Vietnam is very in unique position. We save in here, and we also have the largest pool of IT engineers in Southeast Asia as a country.
Very interesting. Thank you, Anh Nguyen, for your insight into that. I hadn't realized Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia were so important in that data center and the offshoring. A question perhaps for Tan, it's about real estate. How do we see there being newly revised land laws? How do we see that affecting the market? And what's our real estate expression in our portfolio at the moment?
Yes, it's a law that everybody is waiting for quite a long time, because and we think that this will be very good for the long-term development of the real estate market. It will prevent speculation and would provide better legal framework for developers to continue their projects that have been a lot of legal issue at the moment, and which will provide more transparency for the for participants in the property market, especially for developers, and also provide more confidence for investors, for consumer to buy more products. And I think this will affect the recovery of the property market in Vietnam in the long term. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Tan. Well, look, we've come to the end of our time. We want to thank you all for participating, either live watching the webinar or through the recording. Particular thanks to Anh Nguyen from FPT. Thank you for helping drive so much value for our investors through our portfolio. We really appreciate what the company has done. And thank you very much for sharing your insights into a fascinating growth area within Vietnam, which itself is a fascinating growth market. And thank you also to Tan as well. So In conclusion, Vietnam remains a must-visit country, remains a must-invest opportunity as well, particularly if you're looking 2 to 3 years out when it'll become part of the emerging markets more broadly defined. There are great companies like FPT that are compounding their earnings, high return on equity, and so the market as a whole is well priced and with great growth prospects for the remainder of this year and into 2025. So if you like what you see, contact us, find out more about Vietnam Holding, or feel free to do your own research and look to buy Vietnam Holding through the London Stock Exchange. So with that, I'd like to thank you all again and wish you a very safe and happy day ahead. Thank you.